If you want to get into Section 8 investing but live outside the US, or you're inside the US but not a citizen, this video is perfect for you. You're about to learn how to buy your first Section 8 home in the US without being a citizen, without living here, and without getting scammed. This is a full step-by-step breakdown, no fluff, no hype, no fake promises. I'm Joseph Khateri, a realtor in the state of Virginia, as well as Section 8 investor, and let's get into it. Why do you need an LLC? Well, there are a lot of benefits, such as tax benefits, protecting your assets, but the main reason is that banks don't want to lend to foreign nationals directly, but they will lend to a US business that's owned by one. So here's exactly how to do it. What you want to first do is pick a state where you want to invest in. So most of my students are choosing places like Ohio, Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, Louisiana, basically the Midwest. I have entire guides on how to pick a city, but it basically boils down to which ones are landlord friendly, which ones have homes in your price range, and which ones have rents for the prices that you want to be, and which ones have rent prices that will give you a healthy ROI. So let's just say, for the sake of this example, that you want to choose Virginia. For whatever reason, even though Virginia is very expensive, I'm doing it for the sake of this video. What you want to first do is you're going to go on Google, really, and just Google the state website. So I actually have it pulled up already, but it was very easy to get here. So I already have the Virginia LLC formation website pulled up. However, it was very easy to get here. I'll in fact show you exactly how I did it. Virginia LLC creation. Whoops, misspelling. And there you go. It was the first link. So as we can see, right here, form a new Virginia LLC. Pretty much every state is going to have a file online option. We're going to go ahead and click it, and that will bring you to this website, at least for Virginia. So I already, of course, have my own business entity, so I'm going to pretend I'm making a new one. I'm going to go under online services and new businesses, where I want to create my own LLC, and it is going to be a regular articles of organization. You can do a professional one if you are in a different field, like for example, something that needs licenses, but you don't need them in this scenario. So we're going to go with regular. All right, now on this next page, do you have a name reserved? No, we don't. You can make this name whatever you want, as long as the ending of it ends with LLC. So I'm going to make it Khateri Test LLC. Check availability. Perfect. Name is available. We'll move forward. Now we can go ahead, and I typically recommend you make a new email address for the LLC, just because you want to, as an investor, kind of separate this out. So I always do just the name of the LLC at gmail.com. So Khateri Test LLC at gmail.com, something like that. I don't know if it'll actually let me. I don't know if it'll say it's valid or not. And then contact number, you can just put in your phone number. 123 123 1234. Perfect. It is going to be a general industry code, and we will make it perpetual forever. Oh, it actually let me. So this is the main page that I wanted to show you guys. So registered agent information. You are a foreign citizen, so you do not have the ability to put yourself as the registered agent. In fact, you can't put yourself as the registered agent for anyone unless you live in the same state. So, for example, I'm a US citizen, obviously. I can't make an LLC for New York and list myself as the registered agent because I don't have a New York address. And that is the main issue here. So this doesn't really differ, actually, from an out-of-state investor versus a foreign national. There's not a big difference here. It's almost identical. So what we want to do, how do you get around this? How do you get in this case, a Virginia address if you don't live here? Well, you simply Google Virginia registered agent. So there are a lot of websites that offer services to list them as a registered agent, which is exactly what it's asking for right here. Most are about $50 per year, and I know they try to upcharge you quite a bit. This first link seems fine. I don't see anything wrong with this one. Obviously, you want to make sure that they are licensed. You can, I believe, Google registered agent license lookup. But assuming this one is real, you can pretty much just check out, buy it for $50, $49 for the first year. And they're definitely going to try to upcharge you right here. But you're going to just ignore all of that. Select no at any time that's offering it. Like, for example, these trademark services, doing business as. We don't want the business presence package. etc. And we just want the $49. After you purchase, you will be emailed with a name and address to put down for the registered agent. So I'm going to put down my own info because I live here, but for you guys watching, you'll most likely put down the registered agent. On to the next step, principal, office address. Once again, you're going to put down the registered agent. You cannot, in this whole process, put down anything that is your real address, at least on this side. On the registered agent website right here, yes, you can put in your real stuff. When you make the business bank account in a later step, yes, you can put down your real info, but specifically on LLC formation, if you put down your real address, then you will automatically be denied. So you want to put down the registered agent once again here. Now on to the next step, management structure. It is going to be manager managed. You do not have any employees. We do not have any supporting documentation, so I'm just going to click next. And we're going to be signing on as an individual, meaning you just type in your name here, put in your first name, last name, and you're going to click add. So it'll add your signature down here. I may as well do it just to show you guys. You guys already know my name. Add, signature added successfully. And there you go. Now at this point, I'm going to click next. I'm not actually going to, and then just buy the LLC. It costs $100, at least in the state of Virginia. And every year after, it is a $50 renewal fee. Obviously, I'm not going to do it because I'm not actually making this, but there you go. LLC should be formed. You will have received an email containing your articles of organization. After that, we are going to need an EIN, which you can get from the IRS. Now, unfortunately, you will not be able to use the online tool. And this is one of the downsides of not being a US citizen. Because if I click apply for EIN and go on this online tool, unfortunately, it will ask me for either my social security number or ITIN. And most of you will not have either of those because you're not citizens. What do you do in this scenario? Well, you have to go the long way. Unfortunately, you are going to have to mail or fax your application in. Your application is going to be using International EIN Applicants. You're going to have to call this number and submit a form SS4 by fax or mail. And this is how the form looks. You can just find it through the IRS website. You're going to have to submit a copy of your passport in order to validate your identity. And then hopefully, within a few weeks, you're going to have your EIN and you're ready for the next step. This next step is kind of still attached to step 1, which is forming an LLC, but you'll also need a business bank account. Now, for these business bank accounts, once again, they usually require your social security number or your ITIN. You don't have either of those, so what do? Well, you're going to have to go local most of the time. You'll end up just simply, and I know this sucks, Googling and cold calling banks that is in the area that you want to invest in. If you want to invest in Detroit, you're going to be Googling local banks in Detroit, calling each one and explaining your situation and seeing if any will let you make a business bank account. This bank also accepts foreign nationals. However, I've actually never used them. So please take this with a grain of salt. This is just more of a lead that you guys can look into. One of my students apparently uses this, but I have not used this before. Please do your research. But it is called Mercury. Mercury.com. All right, step 2 is getting pre-approved. So now that you have the LLC made, the business bank account, EIN, you are ready for the pre-approval process. So you're going to get a DSCR loan specifically because it's a loan that stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio loans. It means the lender doesn't care about your job or your income. They just care that the rent will cover the mortgage. I personally have my own set of DSCR lenders that I recommend. However, you do have to be in my mentorship program. If you are interested, click the first link in the description. But let me go over what the terms are. So, and I have it kind of set up right here. Here are the terms. So if you are a US citizen, my lender can do 20% down at a $75K purchase price as long as your credit score is, I believe, above 680. If you're a non-citizen with a US credit score, again, above 680, you'll do 25% down or 80K per home purchase price minimum. However, if you are a non-citizen and you don't have a US credit score, then it's 35% down and 85K purchase price. I know that sounds pretty bad. However, I have yet to find a lender do better than this. So if there's any lenders watching that will beat these terms, please message me because I'm interested. Because I've talked to 20 to 30 different lenders and nobody has beaten this. The lender will end up requiring proof of funds, so typically bank statements. They'll also ask for articles of organization related to your LLC, your SS4 form containing your EIN, as well as articles of organization. I don't know if I said that one already. Oh, and your operating agreement. If you need an operating agreement, once again, you can pretty easily just find templates online. I also offer a template to my mentorship students. And what about closing costs? Well, I've noticed that they're universally about $7,000 as long as the home is under 100K. So these closing costs will include lender fees, title fees, appraisal, different escrows. And it's a little bit hard to see, but these images are pretty much exactly what the different fees are. You specifically need someone who works with investors and works with Section 8 and is okay doing virtual tours. So if you're part of my mentorship, I personally assign you to one of my trusted partners in each market. So here's what we look for. We look for a realtor that knows how to screen zip codes for crime and school quality, and in general, general safety. They need to understand how to find homes that easily qualify for Section 8. They also will be able to help estimate rehab costs and navigate city inspections. And of course, they have to have the availability to be able to give you these video tours that you need. So here's how the process works, at least between you and I watching. Tell me what state you want to invest in. I help you form the LLC, help you set up the business bank account. Then I refer you to the realtor. I introduce you, we're all in a group chat together, and we all communicate. And I will give my opinion on the different homes that we end up looking at. And the agent is going to be able to handle everything on the purchasing side of things. Now, if you're not in the mentorship, you're not interested, you can still do this step. You're going to basically have to, again, I know this sucks, cold calling. You essentially can just Google investment realtor. I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia, so Fredericksburg, VA. And you essentially just go down the list and start calling. And it kind of sucks, but it is what you have to do. Here are some things to watch out for. So some realtors overpromise on the rents. You don't want to necessarily listen to their pipe dreams, right? Because a lot of them will say whatever numbers will make you sign on with them. And that's very dangerous, and that's why you need to vet these seriously. You also want a realtor who has the availability to be able to show you the homes. A lot of them will say, oh yeah, I work with investors, I know Section 8, I know exactly what you're looking for, I got you. And then you ask them how many current deals they're handling, they say 20. You definitely can't take on any more clients. And you also don't really want to rely on Zillow estimates that much. I always rely on affordable housing because, once again, you are going to be looking at the Section 8 payments, not what a free market house will rent for. All right, let me pause here. For anyone interested in my Section 8 mentorship, go ahead, click the first link in the description, and while you're down there, go ahead and subscribe. In my mentorship, it truly is one-on-one. I'm not going to just send you a PowerPoint and then ghost you. I help you every step of the way, from forming an LLC all the way to managing a Section 8 tenant. I also have in the description a completely free program hosted by School that has modules of step-by-step guides, and every single month I host a group call that is just a live Q&A where anyone can ask me anything. So that is the second link in the description. Go ahead, check it out, and join for free. Okay, Section 4, buying the home. Now let's walk through an actual home purchase. So your realtor finds you a deal, right? That's the first thing. You make an offer through your LLC because your name won't be on the title. Lender orders an appraisal and title search. You sign documents remotely using some type of DocuSign or a notary, and then you wire funds to the title company from your business account. Now let's go through each of those steps a little bit more in detail. So your realtor finds you a deal. I have full guides on how to find good deals, how to do the math properly. Hint, hint, you want to typically go for homes that at least have a 15% IRR and that cash flows positively. This won't be difficult to find if you're going for homes that are, 100K. But something to keep in mind is that in these hot markets, a lot of you will try to lowball. And this doesn't really work for homes that are turnkey. So if the home was, extremely distressed and needed a lot of rehab and it was listed for 75K, but oh my lord, you'll have to put 20 into it, then sure, you can maybe have some wiggle room to negotiate. But if the home is turnkey, ready to go, then chances are you'll be going full price or close to it. After your realtor and I help you negotiate and you end up getting a deal, it's 17% ROI, you're excited, everyone signed the contract, you have a 7-day inspection, perfect. Well, then it's exactly what it sounds like. You put in your EMD, your deposit, and you start the inspection process. Then from there, we determine if you want to proceed with the home, negotiate, or back out. You also want to order the appraisal as soon as humanly possible. An appraisal is the lender sends out someone to give an extremely accurate and detailed answer as to what the home price actually should be, what the bank values it at. So if the appraisal comes up above the asking price, you're all good. That's actually a good thing for you. The loan will go fine and you got some instant equity in the deal. However, what happens if you're paying 75 but the bank only thinks it's worth 70? Then that 5K difference has to be paid by someone or you back out of the deal. And that's where things get a little bit dicey. Let's assume that everything ends up going fine and you're ready to sign the documents. You do it via DocuSign, and most lenders will require some type of mobile notary. After all the documentation is signed, you wire the funds using the business bank account. Here are some final tips. So like I mentioned, always do an inspection. Every time. I don't recommend going through a deal without at least a 5 to 7 day inspection clause in there. Now, I do recommend if the home is, extremely hot on the market, there's already 5 offers, the deadline is very, very soon. What you can do is bring an inspector out to the property before you submit an offer, just to see, almost doing an on-the-spot inspection to see if you want to proceed or not. Then, yes, you could be able to remove the clause because you already did an inspection prior. You also want to budget extra for repairs. Distressed homes often need at least 10 to 15K of work. And even these gorgeous turnkey homes still typically need, a handful of thousand to fix the little things to pass the Section 8 inspection. For example, GFCI outlets. That's one thing. A lot of homes, they don't really care about them, right? But it is actually a requirement for them to be installed anywhere, I believe, within 6 feet of any water source. And that kind of brings us to Section 5, which is rehabbing and getting through the Section 8 inspections. This is where the real work and the payoff happens. So you're going to rehab the property so it passes the full inspection, and then you'll get a tenant whose rent is paid by the government. So step 1 is rehabbing. You want to focus on the HQS inspection, specifically safety. No leaks, no mold, no tripping hazards. You want to make sure that the paint, flooring, kitchen, and bathrooms are clean. They don't need to be luxurious. They need to be clean and safe. You might be wondering, how do I find these contractors? How do I find these handymen that won't scam me and screw you over? Well, thankfully, your realtor is going to have those connections. And it has to be a win-win for both sides. So, for example, if the realtor recommends a good plumber, well, the plumber now has to do well. Because if the plumber doesn't do well, then the realtor is going to get pissed and never use them again. Right? The realtor is probably sending them a deal a month. So if the plumber does them dirty, then that kind of burns a bridge. It gives them more incentive to treat you well as the client. And this includes pretty much any contractor, really. So if you need plumbers, electricians, handymen, property managers, I know a lot of you want those property managers. The realtor that you end up using will have great recommendations. I would not even worry about that. Then, step 2, after you finish the rehab, it is time to list the home. You can typically hire the property managers or the realtor to do this for you. That will be a lot easier because you're not in the area. However, you can still do it solo if you don't want to fork over the money. I know that you can typically go on something like TaskRabbit, or you can just ask the handyman that you've worked with prior to ask them to show the properties for you and pay them hourly. Because really, that's all you need to do. The properties need to be shown. You can make the lease. You can set up the Section 8 paperwork, you can handle the inspections, but showing the property, opening the door is the hard part, so hire someone. I also know of services like Rentify, I think is the name of it. Is it Rentify? No, it's not Rentify. Rently? Is that it? Yes, it's Rently. So this lets you put a lockbox on the door that is only opened using their app. I believe that's how it works. I've never used these people before, but they're much, much cheaper. And it kind of automates the process of showings where they can kind of just book into a calendar, show up, unlock the lockbox with an app. It takes their ID, it records everything, etc. And then they have to put it back when they're done. So this it seems to be $88 minimum. But that's still a lot cheaper than, using something like a property manager or realtor where they'll take the first month of rent, which is, $1,200, $1,400. How do you pass the inspection though? Well, you can just Google the HQS inspection checklist. It is just directly on Google. A lot of people don't know this. So I like to look at the inspection form. It's the second link that just came up. And it is just going to be a PDF document. It is, what, 19 pages, I think? Let me see. Yeah, 19. Okay, that's how you know I view this a lot. And it just directly states exactly what is needed for every single room. For example, this one. Any room that is used for living and hall. So basically any hallway, any living room. This includes stuff like sunrooms, second living rooms, etc. So it's saying that the window conditions have to be, be able to have at least one window, lock and unlock. It needs to have a smoke detector. Any staircases have to have adequate light. So it really goes through every single detail. This is a little bit hard to read. I'm not gonna lie to you. And that is the reason why I made my own custom checklist that is much easier to read. I offer it to all my students. You will have to probably go through, spend a few hours reading everything if you end up just using this form. And now, after you've passed the HQS inspection, you can finally make the lease with the tenant that you ended up choosing, fill out their landlord packet, have all signatures on the lease, and now it is time for them to move in and you get paid. Now, once again, you can use a property manager for pretty much the entire process. And you can introduce them really at the step that you want. You want to introduce them from the beginning, as soon as you close, so that they do the advertising, they find tenants for you, they get you through Section 8. That's fine. They can do that. They'll charge usually the first month of rent. Or you could do it yourself. And then once the tenant has the lease signed, then hand things over to a property manager, and they'll take a roughly 10% of the rent. You can kind of choose how you want to set this up. But regardless, you should not worry about finding these property managers, finding these contracts. That is one of the easiest parts of this entire process. I've never had a problem with that because any good realtor worth their money will have their own custom list of property managers, plumbers, electricians, etc. that they can recommend. And that is also why you really need to make sure that the realtor you get is top tier. Now, here are some bonus questions, Q&As that I get from non-citizens. Can I do this from my home country without ever coming to the US? Absolutely. Most of my students, most of my past clients who are non-citizens, they've never seen the house. Can I visit the home later? Sure, but you can't do it when a tenant is there. You can do it in between leases or before the tenant moves in. Will my LLC get taxed in the US? Yes, you're going to pay property taxes. Income taxes vary state to state. You should definitely talk to a tax professional, talk to a CPA about that. I know some states have no income taxes, some states have income taxes. I am not informed enough to give you an answer. I'm just being blunt. I'm a realtor, not a CPA. Can I do this without joining your mentorship? Absolutely you can. 100% you can. It will just be a lot more work and you might make some mistakes. I work with you one-on-one in my mentorship so that you can make as little mistakes as possible. Not no mistakes. I think no mistakes is unrealistic and I think I'd be lying if I said that. But you will save thousands of dollars in mistakes throughout the course of the mentorship, and it would just be a generally easier process for you. Let's recap what we have learned today. How to form the LLC, how to get the business bank account, how to get financing, how much cash you'll need, how to buy a home remotely, how to rehab it and pass the Section 8 inspection, how to form the lease and collect rent from the US government. So, by now, you should know exactly A to Z how to buy homes as a foreign citizen. If you're ready to do this right with little mistakes, go ahead, click the first link in the description, join my mentorship, book a free call with my team to see if this is right for you. And if you're interested in my free program where I do monthly group calls live, go ahead and click the second link in the description below. Drop your questions in the comments. I respond personally. And as always, I'm Joseph Khateri, realtor in the state of Virginia. Have a nice day.